I've been talking a lot lately about systematic reviews and meta-analyses. So today, let's change things up a bit and talk about a systematic review and meta-analysis. Okay, if that doesn't capture your attention, what if I told you that this new systematic review and meta-analysis is about how you can avoid getting diabetes by having someone stick needles in you? Right? That did it, I bet. Who doesn't love the idea of becoming a pincushion to save yourself from, well, becoming a pincushion? That joke might be slightly out of date. I think these days most people with diabetes don't actually have to prick their fingers all the time to check their glucose levels. But you know what? Screw it. I'm leaving it. Worked really hard on that joke. Okay, let me start by declaring a wee conflict of interest. I have been extremely skeptical of the ability of acupuncture to treat anything for the past 20 years or so. It's definitely one of those treatments that raises a lot of red flags. Proponents claim that it can treat pretty much any disease or complaint. It's based on mystical knowledge that is unknowable to we mortals. There's no known method by which it can work. There's very little unbiased data suggesting that it does anything, and it is difficult, if not impossible, to test using double blinding. And I'll get into that more in a bit. That said, I do have friends who have gone for acupuncture treatments and they really liked it, saying that it helped them with various problems. And I don't think that in general people are lying when they say that acupuncture has helped them. And as I recently said in another video, just because we don't know how something might work and because we don't currently have a good way to test it, doesn't mean that it doesn't work. Okay, there were a lot of negatives in that sentence, so good luck parsing it. Don't blame me. Blame my chi for not flowing properly into my mouth. That sounded sexual. Anyway, if you've seen headlines in the news recently proclaiming that a new study found that acupuncture can prevent type 2 diabetes, it's based on this paper titled, "Should Acupuncture-Related Therapies Be Considered in Prediabetes Control? Results from a Systematic Review and Meta-Analysis of Randomized Controlled Trials," published this month in the journal Holistic Nursing Practice. If the title of that journal throws up some more red flags for you, good, it should. Holistic should be a normal word used to describe, in medicine, the idea of treating patients as complete human beings with emotional and psychological as well as physical needs. But instead, it has become a bit of a catch-all for bullshit. I looked through some of this journal's other articles, and they do range from kind of understandable, thoughtful treatises on the use of mindfulness in patient treatment, to absolutely moronic dreck, like the use of therapeutic touch / Reiki, surprisingly popular in the nursing profession, despite the fact that these are evidence-free, pointless alt-med theater that involves waving your hands over someone to pretend that cures their illness. You have to really appreciate the grift of a therapy that doesn't actually require touching or interacting with a patient in any meaningful way. It's kind of the chef's kiss of bullshit. As for this systematic review and meta-analysis, the researchers in question examined studies that looked at acupuncture and markers for prediabetes, which is a medical term for people who have higher than normal blood sugar levels, but not levels so high that they officially are considered to have type 2 diabetes. Most pre-diabetic people will go on to get type 2 diabetes, as well as experiencing adverse conditions like heart disease and stroke. More than 1 in 3 Americans is pre-diabetic, and 80% of them don't even know they're pre-diabetic until they experience a serious problem. That might sound like a surprisingly large number of people, but it's actually pretty understandable when you consider that America has perfected the art and the science of cheap, easily available, ultra-processed foods that are designed by the $500 billion snack and fast food industry to be consumed as quickly as possible while leaving us hungry and wanting more. It's that terrible diet plus a society that devalues physical activity by incentivizing us to drive our cars to jobs where we sit at desks all day that provides the perfect environment for all of us to have pancreases that are begging for the literal sweet release of death. The good news is that if you get tested and learn that you have prediabetes, you can reverse it by changing your diet to eat healthier, whole foods and by moving more. But again, our society makes that relatively simple solution very difficult for many people. So it's understandable that we look to other interventions that could help, like sticking needles in ourselves. I've said this like 5 times in the past month, but once more for the people in the back, systematic reviews and meta-analyses are at a high risk of cherry picking, in which researchers simply choose the studies that support their hypotheses and discard the studies that don't. I can't say that that's what happened here, but it is worth noting that they found 855 studies related to acupuncture and prediabetes, which okay, that seems like a lot, but from those, they chose just 31. Worryingly, those 31 studies did not all use the same method of testing acupuncture. This is something I referenced earlier. It is difficult, if not impossible, to test acupuncture in the proper double-blinded way. Blinding is how scientists can remove their own bias from their research and also the bias of the participants, making sure that the participants aren't unconsciously influenced by knowing certain details, and also making sure that no one can purposely cheat to get the results they want. For instance, if I'm testing your psychic ability to tell which cup has the ball underneath of it, I for sure want to blind you. I'll put the ball under the cup when you aren't looking. But if I know which cup has the ball, you might be able to pick up on little hints from me, even if I'm trying to be super chill about it. So the better test is to double blind it, meaning that even I don't know which cup has the ball under it until the experiment is over. That's easy for that kind of test, but it's pretty tough for something like acupuncture, which involves practitioners placing small needles into the skin of patients in specific spots that they think are related to the specific parts of the body or the way energy flows through the body, and sometimes they manipulate those needles after getting feedback from the patient. You can blind the patient pretty easily just by choosing people who don't know anything about acupuncture, but the practitioners do know. They will know if they're placing needles in the wrong place or if they're using sham needles that don't actually go into the skin. They just tap the skin. That's a real invention that has happened to try to test this. So it's tricky. And this review compared studies equally, whether those studies put acupuncture up against sham acupuncture needles, or if they went against completely different treatments, or whether the studies put acupuncture up against nothing at all, meaning that their collection of 31 studies ranged from maybe useful all the way to completely useless. But they say that these studies suggest that acupuncture reduces fasting plasma glucose, 2-hour plasma glucose, and glycated hemoglobin, as well as a greater decline in the incidence of prediabetes. Here's something that might surprise you. I would not be shocked if acupuncture really did have this effect. Yes, bad diet and poor exercise habits are the most significant factors in developing type 2 diabetes. But your glucose levels, which is what this was testing for the most part, can also be elevated by stress. You know, stress is just your stupid monkey brain telling you that there's a threat. And so your liver starts pumping out a bunch of sugar into your blood for you to use as energy so you can fight that tiger that's about to attack you, or so you can get those TPS reports to your boss by Monday morning. And what reduces stress? Lots of things, depending on the person. And many people feel less stressed when they get to lay down on a soft bench for a while. As a preternaturally wise and kind man uses an ancient healing practice to heal not just your body, but your very soul. Maybe while soothing music plays and the lights are low and maybe there's nice smelling candles. Meanwhile, the last time I went to the doctor for my stress, I had to sit naked in a paper gown in a too cold room reading pamphlets about anal warts because I left my phone and my purse in the other room and I was bored because the doctor was seeing someone else and I had 30 minutes to kill before I finally saw someone, not the doctor, maybe a nurse, some kind of assistant, I don't know, who spent like a minute asking me some extra questions and then handed me a prescription and told me to head to Walgreens. It's not pleasant. And, that's a good story here in the US, because I had insurance and I could see a doctor and my doctor filled my prescription for anti-anxiety drugs without grilling me about whether or not I'm going to abuse them or I'm going to walk outside and sell the pills to teenagers. So does acupuncture prevent type 2 diabetes? Probably not in the long term any more than a nice massage or a long warm bath or a good night of sleep does. If you are pre-diabetic, your best bet is being even more holistic and all natural than acupuncture because there's really nothing natural about sticking needles in your back. The most natural thing you can do is to stop buying Whoppers and Frappuccinos and Flaming Hot Cheeto Kraft mac and cheese. I'm very sorry to say. And instead buy stupid, boring fruits and vegetables and beans and stuff. And I don't know, go for a walk. I know, it sucks. And honestly, I get angry when I wake up the day after I spent a day taking care of myself and I realize I do feel better. Like, I absolutely would have failed the marshmallow test. But now that I think of it, failing the marshmallow test means I would only eat one marshmallow instead of two. Eating two marshmallows that's unhealthy. So really failing the marshmallow test is succeeding at health. You know what? I'm getting sidetracked. No, the answer is no. Acupuncture isn't going to prevent you from getting type 2 diabetes. Just try to take care of your body because as of right now, it's the only one you get.